Well, we have another guest on the line also stayed up late for us. So I have to say, we're very honored to have coming to us from the occupied West Bank as we turn our attention back to Palestine. We are really, really honored to have with us Anan Quzmar, who's a volunteer with the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate. Anan, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, it's an honor to have you here. I think some people, or almost everyone, have seen that journalists have been increasingly, significantly targeted in Palestine in the post-October 7th era. So, as we started, I was hoping you could just say something about what the impact and the toll has been on Palestinian journalists during this conflict.
It has been devastating. We have seen nothing like this before, and I think the world has never seen anything like this before. Over the last 3 months, the Israeli military campaign has carried out a calculated assassination campaign against our journalists. They were targeted and killed one by one, almost on a rate of one per day. Up to a few days ago, the total was 109. Our investigations show that out of the 109, there is at least 96 who were specifically targeted, including 22 in the line of duty, and the rest were targeted in strikes that specifically hit their houses and killed them, sometimes many times along with their family members. Many journalists also have had threats, and following these threats, their family members were targeted and attacked and killed. We have injured journalists who are in needing of urgent medical care that is not available to them at the moment in Gaza because Israel destroyed the health system, and they are not allowed to seek the needed healthcare outside the borders of Gaza because of Israel's blockade. So it has been totally devastating. Most of our journalists who are still continuing to work, they are having to make unimaginable choices and decisions every day, while they are rightly recognized as a potential target for Israeli attacks at any moment, including choosing basically who to kill alongside you or to be killed alongside, really, what house to stay in and so on. So it's no different to what Palestinians are experiencing under this Israeli military campaign. And one thing that stands out for our journalists that they're working hard, as hard as you can, and putting their lives on the line in order to bring an end to this.
You're talking to us from the West Bank, and obviously the scale of destruction and of targeted killings in Gaza is so much higher than what we're seeing in the West Bank. And as a result, what's happening in the West Bank has gotten far less attention. But nonetheless, it's quite horrific what we're seeing in the West Bank as well. Could you talk a bit about what the Israeli occupying forces have been doing in the West Bank over the last couple of months in terms of targeting certain towns and cities quite aggressively in what looks like war? I mean, it looks like war, what we're seeing in the West Bank, as well as, I know they've been targeting certain kinds of infrastructure. I imagine, though I'm not sure, but I imagine they've also been targeting media as well. But can you talk a bit about what's taking place in the West Bank?
Yes. What has been happening in the West Bank has started long ago, well before the last 3 months. I live in Tulkarem. I was waiting patiently for my turn to come on because I don't know how long the electricity will stay with us, because I live next to Tulkarem refugee camp, and my brother just walked in and said that the army is in the city. So this is the start of another incursion. These incursions were regular and frequent before October 7th and have become more regular, but have become a lot more aggressive. There is clearly a softening, as the Israeli media calls it, of rules of engagement, which allows the Israeli army to carry out practices exactly like you're showing on the screen of collective punishment, where the bulldozers just drive into um, refugee camps, paving way, destroying people's homes and shops. And one of the most consistent patterns in the city of Tulkarem, where I live now, is the destruction to infrastructure, particularly water and electricity, which is a form of collective punishment. This is their way of cutting water and electricity from the local population in the areas where they are operating. But not only this, we see signs of almost military practice in these cities, where they come in, they practice withholding a whole city under curfew for extended periods of time that are getting longer and longer, totally aimlessly and pointlessly. They control certain areas where the soldiers will go from house to house, get all the men out, carry out what they call field investigations or interrogations, mostly using violence. Most of those who are interrogated are released soon after in the same local area where they're picked up from their homes, and many will be transferred out of the city only to be released right at the border at the crossing. In the last two incursions, vast majority of all who were arrested, like I said, were released either in the same moment or like within hours, or were taken to different locations in the West Bank. Last time it was the crossing west of Tulkarem, the one before that in Hawara. Both times, those who were released had severe injuries as a result of interrogations, these so-called field interrogations. And the last incursions which took place 3 days ago started with an undercover Israeli force that killed 3 Palestinian youngsters between the age of 22 and 24. The Israeli army had prevented the medical teams from reaching them, and released a statement before even the medical teams could reach the bodies, saying that they had eliminated 3 so-called terrorists, and that an exchange of fire took place. Within less than half an hour, CCTV camera footage, which, by the way, prior to October 7th, the Israeli army would have gone into the house and confiscated the footage. This is a well-documented practice of taking away camera footage. But it seems the new rules of engagement allows not only for murdering youngsters, but also for neglecting even to destroy the evidence, because who cares? We can just call them terrorists and release pictures of guns supposedly confiscated in the area. Their claim actually was pretty specific, which is that an exchange of fire took place. And this is not uncommon in terms of fabrication. This, I think, is on the media, the way that the media allows Israel to release fabricated evidence, don't check it, and release it as claims. Before I went on air, I closed the window so that you don't actually hear the army. Usually I'm filming from right this window as the jeeps are driving towards Nur Shams. From my location, I can tell that they're heading towards Nur Shams refugee camp right now. So I was talking about the media bias and how it allows the Israeli military to get away with this sort of merciless murder. There is another footage, by the way, from the other side, which shows the soldiers were basically waiting for the kids to try and run out from that door, and shot them. So in the recent case, to go back to the issue of journalists, in the recent case of Hamza Dahdouh and Mustafa Abu Traya, you may have seen that 2 days after their murder, Israel released a statement as a series of tweets in 3 languages with the Arabic and Hebrew, including more garbage than the English version. The tweet included a document that was completely fabricated. It had the date and the day mixed up. The language is laughable and absurd. And to just give you a glimpse of like also the situation here, It would be actually difficult for me as a journalist to contact a lecturer at a local university and say, can you give me a statement about this being really a made-up story? You know, they will straight away, when they see this document, they will see the fabrication and they will laugh it off. But they will not want to be publicly seen making statements that dismiss such fabrications. And this fabrication also is based on claims that they had found documents in Gaza during the invasion. But these fabricated documents, even they only shared one, but these fabricated claims are about well-known figures, you know. So, and the media fails to check. The media not only fails to check, these people work for well-established organizations. For example, Hamza is one of the most skilled media drone operators in Gaza. His commissioned work for AFP, Al Jazeera over the last 3 years has been providing materials for Al Jazeera showing the level of destruction. And this is why he was targeted. And by sharing this statement, it shows the level of impunity, not only from international organizations such as the UN and human rights organizations, and so, but it also shows the level of complicity of the media, that Israel can release such fabrications, and it is within, you know, their knowledge that this person is actually an actual journalist and still carry these lies.
You know, it really is honestly sometimes amazing, and I guess, you know, because of social media this time around, especially those of us in the United States where the media is so biased, as you point out, are able to see, you know, without filter, without mediation, the actual Palestinian story. I mean, of course, you know, I wish none of this was happening in the sense of what we've seen in this genocide, but does it feel to you, at the very least, because of social media, that maybe more now than in past conflicts, the Palestinian voice is able to break through in a popular way without some of these gatekeepers, despite the fact that obviously they're still there and still continuing to report poorly?
I wish I could say yes, to be honest with you. I think, obviously, a lot of our supporters and many Palestinians live in a world where we are the media war completely, and so on. I wish that was true. But you find in reality that even social media companies are censoring Palestinian voices. And in this reality where there is high level of interest and little room for speech for us Palestinians, wherever we are, you find the perfect scenario for a lot of grifters, accounts that don't really care about what happens to Palestinians, as long as on the short term they can make some sort of a gain, whether it's financial, whether it's clout, or whatever it may be. I think it's important to remind all the people who have been part of this struggle for a long time and have a more nuanced understanding of the situation, that we have a lot of new supporters that are coming in, and this puts a responsibility on us to reach out to them and provide information, protect them from falling victim to, you know, the wrong type of account. I'm not. I call myself an optimist. I see obviously the bright side of the exposure of Israel's genocidal campaign and its true face to a much wider layer in the global world. It's important, but if we can't turn this into effective action, this is just going to be noise. And as soon as there is a ceasefire, the people of Gaza will not find the much needed support that they will continue to need, and Palestinians in general.
Well, we really appreciate you being willing to join us here and help shed some light on all of this. Anan Quzmar, a volunteer with the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate based in the occupied West Bank. Thanks for giving us some of your time here on the Freedom Side.
Thank you.